What's happening, Awesemo baseball fans? Terry McBride here, coming to you with Gundacker. We've got like 15, 20 minutes or so to talk about this upcoming slate of baseball action. We've got a showdown slate to work with. We've got one game to talk about. Gun, we've got I've got some music in my ears. I don't know if you're hearing that. I don't know where that's coming from. There we go. So, Gun, we've got a single game slate to go. Two of our favorite teams. Let's start there. What do you think of this slate before we get into a quick little dive into some of this read? What do you think of this slate just in general?
Yeah, when I watched this game with the crying Jordan face on, bro. I'm Braves. I'm a lifelong Braves fan for about a week now. Is there a way both teams can lose? I don't know.
I'm with you. Yeah, strongly pulling for Blue Georgia down there, and yeah, I at least can go back. I lived outside Atlanta when I was like 2 to like 3.5, and I still have an old school pennant on my wall back in my parents' house that was the Braves pennant. So I'm relying on that for my rooting for the Braves. But yeah, not exactly our favorite couple of teams here, but we're going to talk it through. We're going to fly through some of the options here. We've got limited time before we pass off to some of the other shows that are coming up. But guys, we are brought to you by Jock Market, one of my favorite sites out there. We'll get into them in just a second, but hit the like, hit the subscribe, follow us. If you're interested in jumping behind the scenes, getting access to all of our tools, all of our content, you can get an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95 for Platinum. If you jump on and use the promo code MLB Strategy Show, all caps, all one word, gets you 25% off your first week of an Awesemo Plus Platinum. All right, that's a pretty solid promo we've got. We've got our sponsor, Jock Market. We're also running a separate promo with the promo code CROSSCHECK, all caps, all one word. Gives you 75% off your first week of Awesemo NHL for the hockey fans out there. I believe this is the last time we're doing this. Gets you into NHL DFS, gets you a shot to check it out. If you like baseball, you'll like NHL DFS. I guarantee it's basically the same concepts. Get in there, promo code CROSSCHECK, 75% off. Last part of the puzzle here before we dive into our analysis, we're going to fly straight through without any more breaks. Jock Market. They're turning fantasy sports into a stock exchange. We talk about it all the time on all our different shows. It's a lot of fun to play over there. You buy and sell shares of players in real time. They've got contests for NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, PGA, anything you can think of. You use the pregame IPO and pick up shares of the players, buy, sell, and hold during the game. They've got a first market guarantee. If a new user doesn't profit from their first NFL cash market, they're refunded up to $100. We're also running an exclusive promo code Awesemo, all caps, $50 deposit bonus on your first deposit. Put those two things together, I feel like you're already proffering just by checking out Jock Market. So get over there and check them out, one of our favorite sites and the sponsor of this show. Gun, that brings us straight into this game. Talk to me about the Astros pitching. What's going on over there tonight?
Yeah, it looks like we got Jose Urquidy on the bump for Dusty Baker. We saw the worst case scenario for the Astros last game. Starter gets shelled. They had to lean on Jake Odorizzi. He got 80 pitches of work in, so he did get to wear it. But the Astros really aren't built for a long man to come in. And I was looking at, we talked about it before we went live, looking at some quotes about the possibility of Zach Greinke being available tonight. And the only quote I was able to get from that was that Zach Greinke would be an option to start Game 4, depending on what happened tonight. So it makes me think that there's at least a loose chance that maybe he could clean up some long man duties if all heck broke loose. So, but matchup wise, we got Jose Urquidy on the bump, taking on Erod for a playoff game, Terry, with 50-degree temperatures. It's kind of a high total. So we're expecting some offense here, and Urquidy definitely has leaks that we can kind of lean on and predict so far this season, and really the last 3 years. He's allowed a lot more power to righties than lefties, a 1.5 homer per nine this season to righties, over 2 last year and over 1.3 the year before. So maybe that bodes well for the hottest hitter in the planet, Kike Hernandez, to keep it going. So that's kind of one of the obvious names that kind of came to my eyesight here. And then looking at this Astros lineup, looks like your regular lineup, except Jose Siri played Despacito in the lineup in the 8-hole with Martin Maldonado catching. So nothing crazy about this lineup, but we are dealing with, like I said, some elevated totals for what's a cooler night in Boston.
Yeah, for sure. And usually we see those October totals kind of plummet. We've seen that throughout the playoffs so far this year. But I guess just with these two pitchers on the hill and with these two lineups, it kind of makes sense that it might be an inflated total. I think Erod is typically a better pitcher than he gets credit for. There's a lot of bumpiness in his traditional stats, but over the course of 157 and 2/3 this season, 27.4% strikeout rate, a 3.43 xFIP, a solid swinging strike rate at 11.7%, was very good with contact, 33.6% hard hit, 6.8% barrel rate allowed. So he's a solid pitcher who just gets ridiculously unlucky. The BABIP was really high all season long. The strand rate was really, really low all season long. A lot of it out of his control. For 15,000 for less on DK, are you more interested in going to Erod here against what is an excellent lineup against left-handed pitching, or are you more interested in paying up for Jose Urquidy going against the Red Sox lineup if you're rostering a pitcher on DK?
Yeah, I think my knee-jerk reaction is to not roster a pitcher, but man, I do kind of lean towards Erod here, but there's no confidence behind that. I was looking at our ownership projections and seeing that both pitchers naturally picking up the top two highest ownership in that captain spot. I was thinking about, how viable it is to fade either. I think the deal breaker here for me is, even though Urquidy's swing and strike rate is, almost 12% this year, the strikeout really hasn't been a result for him. Less than 23% against lefties, less than 22% against righties, which, that's not terrible, but it's not great. And you parlay that with his elevated xFIP, especially with those aforementioned problems against righties. And I just feel like Erod's the better pitcher just as a whole. So in a 1v1, I probably lean the better pitcher in the same game. But there's absolutely no confidence in that, because the Astros are not necessarily a team that we lean on to strike out at a high clip. So Erod in a 1v1, but grain of salt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are talking about sending him up against an Astros lineup that for the season, the active roster, 17.8% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching. That's the best mark by far against either hand in baseball. So they were spectacular at avoiding strikeouts. They also create runs 20% better than average, have a 4.12% home run rate against lefties, a 193 team ISO. It's a spectacular lineup, but we've only got two pitchers to choose from if we're going to a starting pitcher. Any love for the bullpen on either side? You mentioned Greinke coming out. If that's a thing, is there any world where you want him in a lineup? If you're rolling out like 150, how many lineups are you considering some bullpen shares for?
Yeah, probably not. I haven't even processed on what his price would even be, but Greinke's not a pitcher that I consider good. They got him at 12.3 in the captain, 8,200. So no, he's just, if he did come out, he's just a contact righty with another power problem to righty. So I wouldn't be there on that. Looking through the bullpen usage from the other night, Blake Taylor, Ryan Stanek, Jake Odorizzi, and Yimi Garcia, guys that threw 20 or more. Stanek only went 12. I would feel like everyone except Odorizzi would be on the table today for Dusty Baker. And then looking at the Red Sox and who they put out, they threw Darwin Hernandez and Ottavino and Garrett Whitlock. Whitlock maybe at 30 plus pitches would be, not the first guy you go to, but you probably expect Ryan Brazier, Tanner Huck, guys like that to be available if needed. So it feels like everyone but Odorizzi probably is activated to come out the bullpen tonight. So that becomes a really dangerous guessing game. And at their prices, I just don't really see a reason for me to kind of play that lane here. Maybe you get one of those inning eating, especially the closers, a Kendall Graveman, somebody like that you would think have a more surefire chance to make an appearance in a 3 or less run game. But no, I'm probably not going to guess on Longman here, especially with Greinke. He's not a great fantasy pitcher, especially at this price.
Yeah, it's not like Zach Greinke's going to come out of the pen, pitch 3 or 4 innings and strike out 8 hitters. He's not that pitcher. He throws, his fastball comes in at 88 miles an hour. His changeup comes in at 87 miles an hour. He just gets by on experience at this point. So, yeah, no real interest there. Moving on, we've got about 5 minutes per team. So why don't we talk lineups a little bit? Once again, guys, brought to you by Jock Market. Get over there. They're turning the fantasy sports into a stock exchange. It's an awesome site. Ton of fun. Gunn, talk to me a little bit about this all-star team of an Astros lineup. You mentioned that we've got the guy who will activate your iPhone commands in the 8 spot. Martin Maldonado, kind of a bit of a bumpy hitter to roster in general from the 9 spot. But up and down 1 through 7, this is just a spectacular lineup. Anybody that you prefer, one v ones, or anybody that you're looking to get heavier than the field on out of this Astros team?
I mean, looking at our projected ownership, especially out of the captain spot, it looks like Jose Altuve at 4%. It's a pretty lucrative spot. Leading off here, he might have the most at bats of the entire game, at least implied at bats at 4% in the captain spot, 16% in the util spot. Maybe the price is making him a little bit harder to jam in lineups, but he's not the most expensive guy. So I don't know. Maybe that's a name that kind of stands out here. Obviously, Kike Hernandez, him being not the most expensive hitter on this slate. Maybe I'm overreacting to recency bias type here, but man, he's just on fire. And I know hot streaks are a controversial discussion in the analytical world, but if you're watching these games, Kike is on a whole different planet right now, and he lines up really well. I don't want to get away from the Astros there, but just looking at the pricing there on Altuve and his ownership, I'm kind of leaning him. And then in the postseason where temps drop, home run balls become warning track flyouts, I lean on guys that hit for average a little bit more. Against lefties, Alex Bregman has maintained a 330 plus average since the beginning of last year. Even Yordan Alvarez, a little bit underrated against lefties, especially in the hit for average department. So that would be the lane I lean on: Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez, and then Jose Siri. I think he becomes a price play. I don't know that pricing ever expected him to start this game. I don't know that he plays all 9 innings here, but him at this price point, $6K in the captain, $4K in the util, looking like price alone is going to make him one of the highest owned pieces to put stuff together. We actually have him as the highest owned position player in the captain spot. And if he got into one, that would definitely unlock the entire slate at that price. So yeah, probably Siri would make that group as well. But I mean, it's hard to eliminate people from the Astros and feel confident about it. It's just the nature of these single game slates.
Yeah, absolutely. And with a guy like him on the board to be able to unlock those spots, if you do roster him in the captain for the limited price, it just makes such a competitive difference. So that's going to be a popular play, like you mentioned, but definitely, one worth considering, and then just try and get different in some other spots. Guy that I like in the middle of that lineup, I mentioned pretty much every time we talk about this team throughout the season, won the batting title in the American League. Actually, the winner and the runner-up for the batting title. You mentioned batting average, not something we typically talk about, but Yuli Gurriel in the 7 spot in this lineup, and then Michael Brantley in the 2 spot. Brantley 311 for the season, Yuli 319. Spectacular season out of him. Both of them create runs well above average. So both hitters that I'm interested in this lineup as well, despite the lefty for Brantley. Is that something that you're looking to avoid? Excuse me one second.
Hit for average or lefties? No, not especially not in a playoff situation. Erod has allowed almost as much of a average allowed to lefties as he has righties. He strikes them out a little bit more. But looking at that Red Sox bullpen, you kind of anticipate more righties coming in. So I think if we expect this game to put up some runs, I'm probably not expecting much more than 4 or 5 innings from Erod anyway. And yeah, I definitely weight batting average a little bit higher than usual. We spend all season long guessing homers, but in the postseason, some of these games got 1 or 2 homers. So the batting average will shine a little bit more, and the stolen bases also kind of rise to the top.
Anybody that you like in particular in terms of the ability to use the wheels a little bit? The guy that I think you'll probably name, so I'm probably stealing the question. I won't even mention him. Who's your favorite guy for a stolen base from the Astros in the starting lineup?
Probably Altuve, man. He gets on,
okay.
swipes one. It's probably Altuve.
Okay, I was looking at Kyle Tucker's total, so we've got different answers there. I love the 30-14 from Kyle Tucker this season. Just a phenomenal player, and obviously you're paying up to a pretty price tag to get him, but I think he's well worth it. So a couple different ways to go for stolen bases. Both those guys spectacular with getting on base and being involved in the offense in general, creating runs well above average. Let's jump over to the Red Sox. We've got about 5 minutes to close this out here. We've got, you mentioned the hottest hitter in baseball. There was a piece in the New York Post that I didn't read because they put it behind their new paywall. I assume that you wrote it because it was comparing him favorably to DJ LeMahieu from the 2019 Yankee season and how spectacular he obviously is. As such a big Red Sox fan and supporter of Enrique Hernandez this season, is there anybody else on the Red Sox that you're in love with now?
I mean, leadoff Schwarber is a chip in a chair. Anytime you can get that, swing at the first pitch, if he'll let you. Or Kitty doesn't have as much of a homer problem to lefties as he does righties, but it's not like he doesn't give up homers to lefties. 0.7 homer per night on the season, nearly a 4 xFIP. He's going to allow you to make contact a pretty decent amount, just a 22% K rate, but he holds down the hard contact rate, so it does keep some balls in. But hey, if Schwarber can hook one around that pesky pole, you might see some goodness out of that leadoff spot. So I definitely don't mind that. Obviously, Devers and Bogarts, they write themselves here. Yeah, it would basically be the 1 through 4, right? 1 through 6 would be the main hitters here. Renfroe, he's the guy we kind of prefer against lefties. But this is a game that if Urquidy did get knocked out and something like Greinke came in, Urquidy and Greinke would both have really high home run per nights against righties. They give up a lot of power to righties. So Renfroe still has a 230 plus ISO against righties since the beginning of last year. Yeah, he'll strike out, but the K rate for Greinke against righties definitely low. And 21% respectable against Urquidy here. So 1 through 7 would probably be where I'm at. Vasquez and Arroyo don't really strike me as much. Maybe Arroyo's a sneaky speed guy. I got a 1.6 base running grade on him, but it would be 1 through 7.
Yeah, it's interesting. Vasquez, not the guy from even last season when he hit 7 home runs in 189 plate appearances, not the guy who hit 23 out of the park in 521 in 2019. What he did do that I'm somewhat interested in, at least, and I think at least makes him relevant in this type of format, only a 16.9% strikeout rate over 498 plate appearances this season, and still hit 258, 308, 352. It was just a lack of power that really hamstrung him. Created runs 23% worse than average, only a .094 ISO and 6 home runs in that. Did manage to steal 8 bases, which I didn't notice during the course of the season as well. So maybe just in terms of a sneaky hit tool and maybe a little bit of sneaky speed down the bottom of the lineup, he stays relevant. But I agree. I'm really looking to 1 through 7 on this lineup. I like Hunter Renfroe if we can get that at bat against a Greinke or against the lefty out of the pen somehow, where they maybe match up against Alex Verdugo and the guy has to stay in and face 2 more hitters. Overall for the season, you do have JD Martinez, Hunter Renfroe back-to-back 12.4 and 14.4% barrel rates, 49.3% hard hit rate for JD, and a 44.3% hard hit for Hunter Renfroe. So decent pop out of the back end of the lineup there as well. Significant ISOs for those guys. So I do like going to them. Anybody that you're particularly concerned about before we get out of here that's a pinch hit risk or anything like that, or anything that you really want to call out in the last minute that we've got here?
Now, the only thing that strikes me here is our ownership projection on Kike Hernandez is crazy low. And for him to be as hot as he is, I'd be all over that. And that would probably be my claim to fame on this slate, is to captain him and have an aggressive amount in the util spot, because it's a really, really good matchup.
All right. I like that call. I like that call from apparently a huge Red Sox fan, and Kike Hernandez is his biggest fan on the planet. You got a home run call for me?
Top guy in the bomb detector right now is Hunter Renfroe. Below him, JD Martinez and Yordan Alvarez.
I like that. I'm going to go super chalk and just say Kyle Schwarber. He's the top ranked guy in my model here. Guys, we're going to get out of here. Stick around. We've got a couple of shows coming up. Let's see what we've got. We've got an NFL Showdown deeper dive coming up with Lofty and Matt Savoca in 5 minutes at 6:30. Then after that, we've got Showdown Live before lock with Eric and Matt Kajeski. That's going to be a good one. Both of those shows are going to be really good. Stick around for those. We appreciate it, guys.